welcome to Business Made Easy. This is hosted by myself, Fiona Hall from kiffin.co.nz, and Liz Fry over here from lizfry.com.
Hi.
I'm your host for the show, and the purpose of the show really is to share information with fellow business owners about ways to make your business easier. Because often we start our businesses with a specific set of skills. And those skills aren't everything we need to run a business often. For me, I kind of had no idea about the accounting and number sides of business, and that was a steep learning curve when I had to send my first invoice out 13 years ago. Do I need a GST number? How do I do it? What do I send them? How do I lay it out? And it could be quite mind-numbing, especially when you're starting out. But even a few years down the track, understanding cash flow, understanding your profits, all that kind of stuff. I need help with that. It's not a strength of mine. So the kind of guests we invite on are experts in specific areas of business that we know that a lot of people struggle with, and that they want to know more about. Not necessarily so they can learn how to do it themselves, but often so they know what to ask if they may be hiring someone or outsourcing to someone, so they have a better knowledge around that. Often, though, they do share really useful tips that we can all use in our businesses. So there is a lot of practical elements here. I will be taking notes, and I wrote some summaries here for people who would like to, come back to later and revisit stuff if that's the way they learn. I also have we have a private Facebook group which we started, and that's really the purpose of that is to share information. And more information really, and more in-depth. And I have the ability to ask questions offline out of a public forum. I'll pop the link over there, so if you want to join us on the Business Made Easy Facebook page, follow that, and we can accept you in. As I said, it's private, so it's by I do check people out before I let them in. Today, Liz, I don't know if you saw, but we've reached 100 members in our Facebook group.
Yeah, awesome.
Really exciting to see how quickly it's grown, and I notice the interaction. Each day I post a hashtag challenge for people to post things in there, and it's a really opportunity for you to think about your business slightly differently. And often I find when I do those challenges that they give me great ideas for blog articles or newsletter articles or posts on LinkedIn. So oh, here comes Stephanie. Yay, welcome. Stephanie's coming in. Do engage with us and join with us. We'd love to have you across there. So
there's just on that subject, Fiona, there's some amazing people in that group, isn't there? It's real quality. So and they're all sharing different tips and ideas, so definitely a place to be.
And all of our guest experts are also in that group as well. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to Blab.
Sorry, I'm such a novice with this. I didn't know what I was meant to be doing.
That's fine. That's fine. We've just been giving our listeners a quick overview of what the show's about. So perfect timing to join in. So the format for the show is I do my quick intro about the show, and then I give a specific little nugget that I hope people can take and use in their business. And then Liz gives her specific little nugget as well that is going to be useful, usually to do around networking, because that's her area of expertise, and mine's on systems because that's my bag. I love systems. And then we'll come across to you. I'll introduce you, give our listeners a wee bit of a background about you, and then we'll go into your top 3 tips that you can give us about preparing your business for sale from going through that process yourself. I'm sure there's some great things you've learned on that process, and I know there's people listening in today who would love to learn from you for that. So I'm going to get back into the host thing. So I just wanted to give a quick recap from last week too, from our guest Sarah. So Sarah came on to talk about cash flow. So the 3 things that stuck in my mind from her were get paid in advance wherever possible. Have enough money to cover at least 1 month bills in your business account in advance, and categorize your spending and plan for the big expenses. So one of the things I thought about and I brought up was I'm going to need to invest in a new laptop soon. So she said, make sure that if every 3 years you're going to be doing that, then just start putting the money away over that time period after you've bought that laptop, then start squirreling the money away. So that was a great little check-in for me, thinking, yeah, okay, that's a great little thing learning. And I'm sure, Steph, being someone who's fantastic with numbers, you can thoroughly agree with that little tip.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Have a little savings account at the side there and just put a little bit away, even for, things like provisional tax and stuff, it's coming.
Yes.
So just put a little bit away each time, and then it's not such a big hit.
Yeah, brilliant. So my nugget for today is actually to go back to something I did at the beginning of the year. And I thought I'd just revisit that now, because let's face it, we're quarter of the way through the year, and it's kind of blowing my mind, really, that we've got so far. I still feel like I'm back in January and I'm almost in holiday mode. And I think that's some wishful thinking. Maybe I need to have that extra holiday coming up. So at the beginning of the year, I did some really deep investigating into what I wanted more of this year. Because I know that our brains like to seek the more of. If we start kind of looking at scarcity and I must stop and I should and all that kind of language, it feels really heavy and we don't really want to action it. But when we look at what we want more of, from some reading I did, I can't remember who the author was. It might have been Liz Gilbert. It might have been Brené Brown, some of my favourite women authors. But the more of list was something that really appealed to me. So here's my top 6 more of. So I'm hoping that some of these might be useful for some of you listening in today. The first one was book in my holidays. So I have done a couple of those, so I'm quite excited. I've got those holidays to look forward to, and specifically ones where I'm doing some adventures with my kids who are getting a bit older now, more capable, so I'm really looking forward to those holidays with my kids. So those are booked into my calendar. And then more moments in nature. So for me, that's sometimes walking and talking business, and booking a business networking meeting, going for a walk. It doesn't have to be a hard-out bushwalk where you're spending hours out there, but even a nice half an hour stroll along a beach is quite fantastic, and it's a really creative exercise, actually. The next one is earning money, utilising my strengths and passions. So getting real clarity around what my strengths are and what I'm passionate about. And I've noticed already I've said no to a few opportunities by being really clear, and it means the things I really want to do it's been easy for me to say yes to, and there's space in my calendar to fit them in, which is even more important. And then walks and talks with inspiring people as well. I've been reaching out to people who are doing things that I'm really fascinated with, and I'm quite looking forward to myself in terms of my future plans for the next 5-10 years. So, and I've had a couple of coffee catch-ups with those people, and it's been quite inspiring for me to talk to women who are 5-10 years older than me and doing things that I want to do. So that's you'd be surprised who will stop and give you some time. Do reach out. I find that women are incredibly generous at doing that too. No offence to any men listening, but I just found that, women can be really generous about, the hand up, helping others up and lifting them up. And then spending time with inspirational teachers and mentors. So I got to hear Liz Gilbert speak, and I was incredibly inspired with listening to her and her ideas about creativity and curiosity and following that, incorporating that into your life. So I hope those would give people a little bit of a nugget for them to take and use, but do let us know, type in any questions down here around that. And I'll pass over to the lovely Liz Fry, the connecting queen, to give you her nugget.
Thanks, Fiona. Liz Fry of lizfry.com. And it just amazes me, Fiona, because my nugget today is about creating space. And it's about when you let go of something that's not serving you, or people that are not serving you, you're creating space for something better. So whether that is something in your schedule, whether it might be a part-time job that you've still got on while you're building up your business, if you can just take that leap and let it go, and allow room for something else to come in. As I say, it might be people in your network that aren't serving you, that are quite
energy vampires, Liz.
Sapping, for a better word, of your time and your. That's perfect. Absolutely. Energy vampires, time vampires. Sometimes you can really lose 2 or 3 hours a week to them for absolutely nothing. So yeah, just focusing on that. And actually, it was quite interesting. One of the ladies in my network did an exercise where she removed all the old clients' paperwork. She's a personal trainer, and she had all their paperwork in a file, and she removed all that and put it in a different file, only to find that shortly after making that break with them, they actually called her and wanted to start with her again. So it's just making that break with people. It might be the right people, it might be other people, but yeah, making sure there's space in your diary for you, for the right people,
point.
and for some fun and freedom.
How we spend our time is really precious as business owners, because most of us are juggling a number of things being a business owner, whether it's children or other commitments. So, guarding that quite fiercely can be a skill that needs to be really polished and learnt.
Yeah. And as you say, saying no to those things that aren't going to serve you, so that you have got, the clarity and things to be able to do that.
Nice tip.
Do the things that do.
The nuggets that I post, that we talk about today, they'll be posted in our private Facebook group too. So do, as I say, come across and join it. The link's over here in the questions here if you'd like to join us. And Stephanie is in that group, and all of our guest experts we've had on previously are in that group as well. So come across and join the community, and look for ways to make your business easy. So I'm going to introduce our fabulous guest expert, Stephanie. I met Stephanie, I think it was almost 4 years ago now, at an event, she won it was a competition for entrepreneurs, and she won it too, and I was really impressed. She got up and spoke on stage about her business, and she had such great clarity about what she did and how she served people, and she really impressed me, and I deliberately went to find her and talk to her because I was so impressed with the way she spoke, and having that clarity makes it really easy for people to say, oh yes, that's what I want. So that's one of the reasons I kind of got to know her. And so Stephanie's had, I'll read out some information, some background that I went digging for. She had 3 decades of career experience, and she's a sought-after business coach and mentor. She's a financial insight consultant and an experienced software trainer. She's got a rich background that includes small business ownership, banking, corporate accounting, corporate sales, over many different industries. And in early 2015, Stephanie sold her thriving bookkeeping and accounting software training company, Jada Accounts Limited, to focus on the coaching and training side of her business, because she loves to connect with people. When I first found out she was in bookkeeping, I was quite surprised because she was such a good people person. So there you go. Isn't it interesting where we end up? Stephanie's completed the Indie Coach Business Coach Training course and is an accredited facilitator with Team One's International Cultural Transformational Program. Gee, I got that out. I'm surprised. She grew up in Auckland, and she spent a good part of her 20s living in Seattle in the US. So those of you from the US, give us a shout out and let us know where you're listening in from today. I'd love to hear where everyone's coming in from. And she earned an associate arts degree from Highline College in the US. She now lives and works in Birkenhead in Auckland, New Zealand. If you haven't guessed my accent, we're all New Zealanders based in Auckland here. And she works with clients in New Zealand, but also globally, because as you can see here, the power of the internet, the power of technology gives us the opportunity to connect with people all over the world. And I love the fact that I can talk to people in the UK, in Australia, in the States, and I find it quite exciting that we can share knowledge so easily now. That's a big passion of mine. So Stephanie, introduce yourself and tell us about those top 3 tips that you thought about for preparing people's businesses for sale.
Yeah, so I guess the first thing to think about is that I didn't go into business as a bookkeeping business to be a bookkeeper. In fact, I really wanted to not be a bookkeeper. So right from the get-go, my intention with my bookkeeping business was to have other people doing the accounts, other people doing the bookkeeping, while I grew the business and managed the business. And I just saw that there was so much opportunity out there. People saying that, numbers did their head in, that it sort of came easy to me. And I felt that I could really offer, there was so much opportunity, I could offer a great service and a great solution for people who felt that they were in that situation. So right from the get-go, I did have that intention about creating a business that was not just about me. And so I think that's really key. It's, starting as you mean to continue.
Yeah.
So along that sort of same theme, it meant that I created a strong brand. My brand wasn't about me.
Right.
The brand, everything, every way that we did business and every communication that we had with our clients, I was quite particular about trying to make it not just about me. So we had strong logo, we had strong branding throughout. And so that I felt was really, really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And again, along that same theme as the, starting as you mean to continue is about, as you would know, Fiona, creating really strong systems within your business so that when you're bringing on new bookkeepers and onboarding new clients, there's this way that you do things, and it makes it a lot easier to, to when you're onboarding a new bookkeeper to be able to, just say this is how we do things here, and you've already got it documented. And this, this can take a little bit of time, so it's worth the time to do it up front as you're going through it. Like as I was going through doing the work for bookkeepers, the bookkeeping work for my clients, taking the time to actually document what I was doing, and this is how we do this. Now, of course, these are things that they need to be reviewed on an ongoing basis, and things change and your systems change, but knowing very clearly so you've got some continuity of how you operate as a business was really important. So, and the third thing probably a couple things was really about people. And I mean that both in terms of the staff and the team, hiring well, getting good staff, good team. And, there's bookkeeping companies out there who have different ways of doing this. But for me, that meant getting good contract bookkeepers. That's what worked for me. And I was quite happy to pay those, senior bookkeepers so that I didn't have to hold their hand. So I knew that they could pick up and run with a set of accounts or a set of bookkeeping and know what to do, and then I wasn't going to be stuck fixing a whole bunch of mistakes. They could just pick up and run. Because my best use of my time, as you alluded to earlier, was I am a people person. So me growing the business was always my primary consideration, and managing my team of bookkeepers and managing my client relationships as well. Which brings me to, still talking about people, not only my staff and my team, but the clients, and being very clear about how I could best help which businesses. I wasn't going to suit every type of business. But I knew that what the type of businesses were that I could help and that we could help and create, make a difference in terms of their business.
Great. Going back to your, because I'm a system, I love systems. Going back to your, funny that. Going back to your documenting your system. So did you start out writing an operations manual, or did you start out documenting stuff as you went? How did you go? What was your process?
Well, to be honest, I was really bad about it at first, and it's one of those things. Like if I was going to do this again, I would do it a little bit differently, and I would take time up front when things are a bit slower to actually think about what that process actually is, and what is the most efficient way to do this, what is the outcome we're trying to achieve, and what is the best way to do that, and document them so that I did have some sort of operations manual right from the get-go. I wasn't very good at doing that, but it was one of those things that as we grew, we really needed to have those systems in place. Like I alluded to, getting new bookkeepers on board. Well, this is how we do things here, and this is the process that I want you to follow, because getting accurate data is so important for what we were doing. And we're handing over accounts at the end of the year to accountants who are also primary referrers in terms of a marketing channel. So super important that what we're giving them is top quality work. So systems is a huge part of that, and making sure that what we're doing is actually coming out the other end the way it should and not a big mess.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Is that sometimes our referral networks, it's a cyclical process, isn't it, coming through?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and managing that. Did you go out and target specific businesses? Did you part of your strategy to build your business?
I didn't necessarily, but I tended to have a specific size of business that we fitted well within.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I said, okay, we can help tradies or we can help people in this particular industry. It was more about the size of business. And oftentimes those businesses were in growth phase. And so we would work with them for a period of time, and then they would get to a point where actually it was actually more cost effective for them to actually hire a full-time admin and accounts person. Right. And at that, they're not our target market anymore. Happy to just hand them over, and fantastic. They've grown their business to a point where they don't need us anymore.
Yeah.
And conversely, there was probably some businesses who were too small to afford us as well. So sometimes in that situation, we'd train them and tell them this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
We often had some businesses who were doing their own accounts, but we would just review their GST return perhaps, or, help them out with curly questions every once in a while. So we did have a wide variety of clients that we helped in many different ways, and we were quite customized in that respect.
Yeah.
To be able to help, if you just need us to do payroll, we'll just do payroll kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's that flexibility is quite handy, I suppose, especially if you're helping someone go through that growth phase. They might start out with just the PAYE and then GST, and then slowly add on until you got to the point that their business grew, and then you'd pass them on to.
Yeah, and it really depended on I would sit down with a business owner right from the start when I was interviewing them to see if we were going to be able to work together, and get a really clear understanding of how their business worked, and what their current processes were, and what their current staffing resources were, and figure out from there how we could help them best. And sometimes that was, let's just take that whole load off you so you don't even have to worry about it, and you get that look of absolute relief on their face, like, oh, thank God I don't need to do that anymore, that'll be awesome, totally take it all away. Or else they might have someone that can do the invoicing, and they just want someone to do the bank reconciliations and the GST, so that, so like at the end of year when they hand it over to the accountant, that it's, nice and streamlined, and not then having massive accountant bills to tidy up the mess that they've made. And, we're a point of contact for that staff person as well if they get stuck. So lots of different ways, but it was, real big on the whole one size does not fit all thing.
Yeah. The Althea has to jump off. Hey, Althea, nice to have you on today. We'll see you again next time. The replay is going to be available, so we'll make sure that you get a copy of that to look at later. Stephanie, when the actual process of going to sell your business, did you go through a business broker, or did you? You did, yeah. And how did you? What did the business broker want from you? What did they find? What did they need from you to make that process happen?
So really, it was just about the accounts and the turnover of the business and the profit of the business.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I don't really understand how they work out what the pricing is.
Okay.
I do know that they take into account how easy it is for someone to step into a business, but also for us as a bookkeeping business, we had continuous fees. Like for us as a bookkeeping business, I got a client once, and they tended, they stayed with us. So every month we had rollover fees.
Yes.
And that's very typical of the, the accounting industry as a whole. Whereas some other businesses, it's you sell something once and you've got to continually sell.
Yes.
So having a really strong client base made that the price, much better than perhaps a business that didn't. So it was continuous income.
Yeah, so they could see the cash flow was steady and predictable, and they could see that, they could project, basically, this is the income stream for the next,
Yeah, so they went back 2 or 3 years, I think, from memory, and they could see that it was steadily increasing. They had a look through my accounts. I had 0 files, so I invited the new owner in, and he had a look through just to, satisfy his due diligence to make sure that, this income is coming in consistently from all of these different clients.
Great.
How did you liaise with your clients
well, it all happened
to let
really,
them know
really
what was happening?
And it's probably something I would have liked to have had a little bit more advice about, because I never sold a business before. I didn't quite know how to approach it. But the business sold, the handover date was mid-January, a year ago. And we did a really quick handover. So it was basically, I emailed out my clients and said, hey, I'm handing over to these people, and this is their background, and they'll be in touch, and I've loved working with you, and I'm gonna hand over to make sure that you're handed over. But because I had staff, the continuity for them, for those clients, was I was able to assure them, look, nothing's going to change. You still have your so for most of them, but it was just the clients that I was actually doing myself. I had just a handful of ones that I was currently doing. So that I had to hand over those ones. But for the ones that, my bookkeepers were working on, it really was business as usual.
Great.
Which is another good aspect of, if you're going to sell a business, is having those stuff so that it's the continuity of the business is ensured.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because I suppose looking at, the opportunity to buy a business, it's, people will be worried that people would jump ship because they're attached to doing business with Stephanie as opposed to Jada Accounts, right?
Right, yeah, absolutely. And that's, that is a risk if you are the person. If you are the only person, that is certainly a risk.
Yeah.
So that's why I talked about earlier about making sure that you've got good people and that they're looking after your clients well, because you're reliant on them having that relationship, actually, probably more so than me.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another point, is that in that situation, not only did I have to make sure that I was pleasing my clients, I had to make sure that I was actually pleasing my bookkeepers as well.
Yeah, and how did you manage that?
I was the go-between between the two, and so I had to be very clear about what value I was offering in that mix. I was very clear about what the value was for my clients, but for my bookkeepers also, there was great value for them in, being part of something a bit bigger than themselves, not just working on their own, having support when they needed it, and also, when clients moved on, I'd find them another one, so they had continuity of work as well. So there was definitely pros for them, definitely pros for the client, and that was my role in the middle.
Yeah. And that's, I suppose, is that bringing back to that clarity, is like who's doing what and why are they there and what's the value they add. It's a big thing to have in a business, isn't it? It's like the roles and responsibilities for each person in the business. It's bigger than the organisational chart. I talked about that last week, is actually having a chart, people's names and their role, but what are they responsible for, so you know who to go for what. Because often
that's right,
the stuff gets lost in a job description that people read once, filed away, never referred to again. But when someone's coming into a new business and they need to contact someone, who do I contact about sending my invoices to, or who do I do this, or who do I contact about that? Being really clear about that when you're inducting someone new makes that transition process really a lot quicker.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm real big on checklists. And, we set up Workflow Max, which is a job management system, a few years ago. And that's really good, allowing us to create checklists for each client, because every client was a little bit different.
Yes.
And, in as much as, we're kind of doing the same thing for the different clients, it's just different. Don't forget to send that report to the director or to that supplier or whatever. And just having a checklist just prompts you to do that, so you don't go home after you've been to the client and go, oh my God, I forgot to file the PAYE return kind of thing. So it's just checklists. I'm real big on them. Even for experienced people, it's just good to have them as a checklist so that you don't forget, especially when we were dealing with multiple different businesses.
Oh, it's so easy to otherwise.
Oh my God. Yeah, I know. We had, so many GST returns to do come GST time. We had to have those really solid checklists and systems in place to make sure that we were meeting the client's expectations and the IRD deadlines.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is our brains can only hold 3 or 4 things in our brain at once. I think it's 3 really for a long period of time. So we can't rely on our brains to remember, and bits of paper and get lost, or you know, something they put something on top of it. Yeah, you need to have a way.
Yeah.
And
so having good to-do systems and you know, out systems, which I'm sure you deal a lot with as well. For sure.
And for you as a manager and managing that process, being able to report on that and see what's going on at a higher level, that's the critical thing as a business owner, right?
Yeah, and it also gave the bookkeepers, they had to have a little bit of accountability with that too, you know, to check off, have you done that kind of thing. So, yeah, definitely.
That would have made it so easy for the new business owner too, because they could actually see exactly, because like when you're, you know, how much time do they need to put into the business to keep it going, and what's their role and what people expect of them as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they've got to sort of meet all their clients, all their new clients, and make sure they're being that they're happy. You know, a lot for them to take on. So the easier that can be for them, the better.
What would you? No, go, Liz. Sorry.
Have you got some? Oh, I was going to say. Have you got anything to share in terms of choosing a business broker? Like, did you know one already?
I was really lucky in that one of my colleagues had recently sold her bookkeeping business 6 months prior, and so she had referred me to this guy, and it worked out to be well because he already had a database of people who were interested in bookkeeping businesses.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah, so I'm so glad I went through the broker. I mean, their fees are expensive, but the price that he got for my business is, even with the fees deducted, is more than what I would have asked for it. I had no idea how much it was worth. So, but to get that expert advice from someone who is dealing with that stuff all the time, was invaluable. So the price he put on my business, I was like, really? Wow. Whereas if I had thought to sell it on my own, I would have thought, I was, you know, kind of thinking, gosh, I would hope that it would be worth X amount. But, you know, then he came along and said, let's put it on for that. I'm like, oh, yes. that would be great. And so, you know, going through him, it meant, like I said, he already had a database of interested buyers. I ended up, it sold within a week. It was a multi-offer. I got more than the asking price.
Wonderful.
So highly recommend. Highly recommend going through a broker. Yeah.
And that's the whole thing about getting an expert in to do a job, isn't it? There's the whole DIY thing that a lot of us kind of feel like, oh, it's going to be too expensive or it's too hard or.
Yeah. I mean, it's much like a real estate agent. You know, you wouldn't, I think when, you know, years ago we tried to sell our house in a private sale, and what a waste of time it was, you know, and got a real estate agent in who did a fabulous job and got us a really good price. So yeah, same sort of thing. You know, they know what they're doing and they've got the systems to make it efficient and actually know what works. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool. Is there anything, like, looking back, you would do differently if, like, thinking about your the new business that you've got? Is there anything you do differently?
There is. You know, I think I mentioned the systems. Ideally, I would take the time up front to start documenting them. You know, not quite as busy at the front. You know, you're not run off your feet yet. So that's the time to actually take a little bit of time, because it does mean, and that's the trap you get into. You're so busy. I'll just do the work, where, you know, taking half an hour to actually document that feels like a huge stress, you know, when you're in the middle of it. So taking the time to do that up front, I think, would have been really beneficial. The other thing I would do differently is never ever discount. At the beginning, I pretty much took anything, and you know, some occasionally discounted to get the job, and we ended up having that client for years, and they were on this rate that you know, was kind of you know, grandfathered in. So you never ever discount, always add value. That's a rule that I have learned.
Great tip.
You know, those legacy clients. So years later, I was kicking myself for agreeing to that lower price, because it's, you know, it's much easier to get them in at the right price than to try and increase the rate as you go on. I found that really difficult. And the other thing is that I would do differently is, I mean, this took me a little while just to figure out. I tried hiring people, actually employing them, and I tried contractors, and I had a mix of the both.
Yes.
And also I hired someone because I wanted to help them out, but really they weren't the right fit for the role. I was trying to make the role fit them.
Yes.
So making sure that the people that you're bringing on board actually fit the role, which means being very clear about what that role is.
Yeah.
And
yes.
what skills are required, and what what personality type is required as well. So that's really important because, I mean, that didn't always work out that well. Sort of trying to make the job fit, that was not a good decision. But along the way, I developed some quite strong HR processes to try and alleviate.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how those learning experiences make you get really tight and define things?
And that's all you can do in business, eh? You can just go, okay, that didn't work. What can I learn from that? How would I do that differently next time? And, as well as learning about my own business, I'm seeing all my clients make those same kind of things and, helping them through that, which is why I've sort of fallen into business coaching. Making sure you hire the right person, that you're very clear about what you need, and then hiring the right person, and not just grasping at the first person because you're really swamped and overwhelmed and you just need someone, because I tell you what, you'll be more swamped and overwhelmed with the wrong person. All their mistakes.
Yeah.
And one thing that I was really good at, I think, is having good business information. Like, I knew what gross percentage profit I was making per bookkeeper. I knew which accounting software was bringing in the most clients. And so from that kind of information, I was able to make really strong, solid business decisions.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of what I do now is, accounting systems and making sure that they're set up so that you can actually get some good business information out the other end, and what are you actually tracking, and what do you need to know to be able to make those decisions? What are your KPIs around that? So that's definitely something that, people can gloss over and think, just, do a cash basis accounting because that's really easy. It doesn't take long. But actually, that's not really giving you much business information, and that having that business information is crucial to growing a business, and then to be able to sell it, because then I could go, this is our business and these are the margins that we're making. Or I could say, I need to get the margin up on this particular bookkeeper, I've underquoted, or something. I could make good business decisions with that.
So knowing your numbers is really critical when you're growing, when you've got a team.
Knowing your numbers and knowing what drives your business, so that you can actually create the systems to get that information.
Yeah. Great.
What would you say to a new business owner at the start who's just starting out and has obviously got no plans to sell their business, kind of thing? It's quite it's something quite sort of far in the future for a lot of people. What would be your sort of one major tip in that respect? Because I guess, not everybody will think of it, and I guess not everybody will sell their business. So what
important to
have
some sort of vision of where you're going with your business. You need to know what your goals are with your business. So whether that's to sell it, whether it's to create a business that's going to work without you, whether it's to make X amount of dollars per year, whether whatever it is, you need to have some sort of vision so that you know where you're actually heading. Otherwise, you're going to flounder along. Again, it comes down to information. It comes down to a bit of clarity and focus. Because if you don't have that vision of what you're trying to create, and that can be difficult. I can see that can be quite difficult to kind of go, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. Sometimes you might need a little bit of help with that. But as soon as you've got that, then you've got the ability to really focus your attention and your intention on what you're trying to achieve, and everything flows from there, really.
I'm going to pop a link to Stephany's website here for those who want to find out more about what Stephanie does. We've got a poor internet signal. Is it just me? Can you guys hear me? Yeah, I've lost you.
I can hear you. Yeah, I can't see you.
I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good old Blab better. Hey, Steph, you've given us some great tips. I thoroughly like when you talked about the whole documenting stuff. When you start your business, I mean, probably the beauty of me when I started my business 13 years ago was that because I wanted to write operations manuals for people, I started writing my own one when I started. And even though I was in 95% of the roles in my organizational chart, it was my name. The fact that I had that in place was at once overwhelming, but the other time it was kind of empowering in a way to think, wow, I'm going to grow something bigger than me. And one day other people's names will be in these roles. I found that for me, when I went to hire, I started my business and then 6 months later I got pregnant with my first child, which was kind of planned. And I was in the middle of similar projects. And I was able to outsource that really easy because I had my systems in place. And I, like you, I hired people who were, they had 25 years more experience than me doing what I was doing. So it was a really easy transition process for me to come in and out of the business around having 2 children. And that was, and having that in place was really a godsend for me. Being able to do that and feel comfortable that things are still going to go as we need them to go. Clients.
It's knowing it's a hard thing sometimes, when you're picking who you want to bring into the business because you want to get the best, but sometimes you can't it's not financially feasible to get, the absolute best. But knowing what, having some budgets in place and knowing where your limit is, what you're trying to achieve, what sort of margin you really need to have will make a huge difference. So just knowing, okay, I need to make X amount of % on this particular person's hours and I really can't go over that point. It's not going to be worth it from a business perspective to do that.
What's the minimum percentage markup on contractors, would you say? Would you have... I mean, you have to know your overheads, obviously, but...
You do, and I'd say that might vary industry to industry. Trying to think if I'm giving away trade secrets here. I think it's generally accepted that 60% cost of goods sold, so 40% profit, gross profit, is probably at, the minimum that you'd want to make. If you can get 50%, I would say that would be ideal.
Oh, it's good to have some ballparks as well when you're thinking about stuff,
I mean, other people might have other opinions about that, but that, if I think 50% is a really good aim for that. 60% is acceptable.
Well, especially when you I mean, I look at it because you've got to have a project management fee and a liaison with clients, and that that costs money, right?
And there's so many costs that you don't sort of consider when you go into business. I mean, my professional indemnity insurance is quite high every year. Just the cost of having computers and offices and that sort of thing is quite high as well. So there's just always something. We lost.
Are you still with us, Fiona? Oh, might have lost Fiona. Stephanie, do you want to just share with us about your business now and the sort of people you're working with and things?
I'm doing business coaching now, which I absolutely love. So I work with business owners who are, I like to work with business owners who are kind of where I was in terms of they've grown their business to a particular point. They're finding themselves maybe letting go of some of their personal joys, that I got to a point about a couple of years ago, and I realized that I'd kind of accidentally, without even realizing it, I'd taken out of my life, my work day had started getting longer and longer, and I'd stopped going to yoga, and I hadn't been sailing, and I love to ski. I hadn't been skiing that winter. and I just was very work focused. And so as soon as I realized that, I was able to put those big rocks in first. But so I would really love to work with people who are kind of in a similar situation. They've done really well at growing their business at a certain level. They've got some staff, but along with that comes demands from the staff, demands from their clients. They're juggling family life as well, and they're wearing 17 hats still because they're not at that point where they can outsource everything. And they often don't have very good systems in place, and they often don't really have a good grasp on their numbers either, what sort of margins they're making. So that's the sort of business that I'd really love to work with. I also run a coaching group which is aimed more at solopreneurs. It's actually just women at the moment, and that's a monthly coaching group that we get together once a month, and I facilitate a topic of the month, but we just sort of go through wins and challenges in a supportive environment. So that's my way of helping business owners who are maybe just starting out, they're new to business, and they really, really need some help and some guidance, in their first couple of years, but aren't necessarily making the income to afford a business coach per se. So that's a couple different ways that I work with people, and on top of that, I'm still doing accounting, software training, and business systems consulting. So consulting with businesses around their financial systems and even job management systems at the moment, depending on business, and training people in the use of Xero, Reckon, MYB, and that sort of thing, so that they're getting the most out of those systems.
Yeah, cool.
So a bit of a variety of things, which I quite like, having having my fingers in a few different pies. But I love the coaching. Really, really love working with business owners. And I guess having the business that I did with Jada was such a great learning experience, because not only have I had my own businesses over the years, but to actually be trusted advisor to over 100 different businesses over that time, and actually really figure out what's making those businesses tick and what's not working. And I just love business, so I ask questions all the time, figure out what they're doing, and from that it's just given me a real great breadth of experience and knowledge in order to be able to help other business owners to succeed. I love it.
Fantastic.
I sure do.
Have you got a Facebook page we can follow as well?
I'll go and grab that and bring that across so we can share that as well.
Because sometimes you get a little bit overwhelmed, your headspace gets a bit full, and sometimes you need to borrow someone else's, and sometimes you need to kind of just you say, I don't have the headspace for that. So sometimes you need someone else's headspace. But I am all about business and creating better business.
Hey, thanks, Steph. Lots of great nuggets here for people listening in today. We haven't got any questions come through as far as I can see. But as I said, we've got the business, our Business Made Easy private Facebook group. So Stephanie is part of that group. So I put a picture, I've got an album in there of all our guest experts. So Steph's photo and her details will be in there for people who want to connect with her through there. And we're going to hop across to Facebook briefly now to inside of that group. If anyone's got any questions, would love to have you across. Thank you so much for your time, Steph, and for your knowledge. Really appreciate you jumping on with us today and sharing all about preparing a business for sale. There's lots of useful stuff I'm going to take away and think about for myself and my own business. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. So next week too, for our listeners, we have Deb Malone from Clicks to Customers, and she's going to be talking to us about some top tips for Facebook adverts. So what to do, what not to do for Facebook adverts to save you time and money for those of you who have maybe spent some money on adverts and not seeing the results. I recommend listening into Deb. She is a wealth of knowledge. She has lots of technical knowledge too. So if you're a DIYer, you'll get lots of tips from her. And if you just want to learn some stuff or know where to look or understand what you need to do to prepare for ads or redo the ones that haven't worked, you'll get some great tips, business owners who use Facebook. I have used it to promote my Facebook group and to promote events. And our Facebook ads for me have been really worthwhile. We've grown, as I said, we've grown our Business Made Easy Facebook group to 100 members now within a couple of weeks. Yeah, highly recommend listening in to Deb. She's part of a mastermind group I'm in, and highly respect her knowledge and wealth of expertise. Is there anything you want to leave everyone with today, Liz?
Well, yeah, thanks very much, Stephanie. That was awesome, and as I say, great to get us thinking about the sort of end goals and having those systems in place that Fiona and I love. So just to thank you, thank you again, Fiona, for having us and hosting this wonderful show.
I'll sign off now and pause the recording, and we'll see you again next week, Wednesday, 10 a.m. NZ time. It's 4 p.m. on the coast, 1 p.m. on the west coast of the States, and it's 10 p.m. in the UK. So those of you listening in, welcome, and we'll see you again next time. Bye now.